Good evening. You're tuned in to 97.8 The Signal, your station for midnight talk, half forgotten memories, and whatever else slips through the static. This is Daniel Mercer, holding down the fort on another quiet night. Weather outside is colder than expected for late October. They're saying frost advisories in the northern counties, so if you're out driving, take it slow. We've got coffee, company, and vinyl tonight, so don't touch that dial. In other news, something odd out of Mississippi. A flock of geese flying in perfect circles for 3 hours. The footage is online if you haven't seen it. Officials say it's natural behavior, but hey, if birds are spinning, maybe we should too. Coming up after the break, your usual call-ins, a few rare jazz cuts, and a story from a listener who swears her cat can mimic human speech. I kid you not, it's gonna be one of those nights. But first, here's one from way back, a personal favorite. If you remember this one, you're probably older than your radio. Stick with me, we're just getting started. Vinyl hiss, needle drops, a song plays. A little too slowly, just slightly. Welcome back to The Signal. That was Autumn Blue by the Ridgeways. Or at least it should have been. Something about the tempo felt off. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, let's take a few calls before we dive into tonight's topic. Line 2, you're live. Wait, hold on. Did that just repeat? Static crackles faintly. Then a soft echo of Daniel's own voice cuts in, repeating the last sentence. Line 2, you're live. Wait, hold on. Huh? That's strange. Don't usually get feedback like that unless something's rerouting. 1 second. Button click. Okay, line 2. You're actually live now. Promise. What's your name? No answer. All right. Technical hiccup, folks. It happens. Moving on. Weather, as I mentioned earlier, is acting up a bit tonight. Wait. Long pause. Did I already say that? Weird. You know, it's funny. It's almost like deja vu, but worse. Like the words aren't just repeating, they're layering. Let's spin another track. I need to check something back here. Okay, folks, I've got something now. Caller on line 5 says they've got a story. Go ahead. You're live on The Signal. Caller, male, calm. Yeah, hey Dan, big fan of the show. Hey, thanks for that. What's your name, friend? Caller, Chris, from Stone Ridge. Listen, I need to ask something. Shoot, caller. Did you see the sunset tonight? Not really. Locked in the booth, same as always. Why? Caller. It didn't set. It rose. Around 7:40. Right there. Over the West Ridge. I saw it. Full color, full arc, right over the highway like it was morning again. And then it just froze. Like it stalled in the sky. You sure you didn't catch a reflection? Bright lights? Weather balloon? Caller. Number. No, man, I swear. My car clock started counting backwards. The needle on the speedometer spun left and stayed there. My phone glitched out. And here's the kicker. I checked the timestamp on my security cam. It said yesterday. Yesterday, Dan. Okay. You've got my attention. Anyone else out there seeing something strange? Hit the lines. We'll take more calls after this next track. And Chris, stay on the line a second. We'll talk during the break. Beat. Daniel leans closer to the mic. Sun rising in the west. Yeah, okay. Now, it's one of those nights. Folks, we're back. I want to be clear, we vet calls before putting them on air. Usually. But what you just heard from Chris, we didn't queue him up. His number didn't even show on the board. And here's the weird part. I just got a call from my producer, except he's asleep. I heard snoring on the line. If you're still with me, I want to ask something. Do you feel off tonight? Like the world's ticking 1 second behind and your brain hasn't caught up? Maybe it's the season, or solar flares, or maybe we've all been on the air a little too long. Either way, don't panic. We're experiencing some minor technical difficulties. Nothing serious, just a little static. Let's keep the night going. Here's one to ground us. Classic soul track. Been saving it for later, but now feels right. Track begins. Wait, that's not... The melody warps in reverse. Chords descend upward. A voice plays backward, beneath the rhythm. Unintelligible. I didn't load this. Daniel doesn't stop it. He doesn't speak. He just listens. And in the silence, beneath the music, a voice, his voice, whispers something he won't remember hearing until much later. You're listening to WZRD, late night radio for the sleepless, the seekers, and the strange. I'm your host, still here, still live. The phone lines are lighting up like a Christmas tree. I don't usually take this many calls this early, but something's stirring. Let's go to line 1. A man from Tallahassee. Voice shaking, says he went out to walk his dog and rain was falling. Upward. Said it rose from the pavement like mist in reverse, collecting in the clouds. He thought it was a trick of the light, but his dog was howling, backing away from the sky. Another caller, Portland, swears her clocks jump back to midnight. Not once, but 3 times in under an hour. And not just one clock, all of them. Wristwatch, microwave, the old grandfather clock in her hallway. All synced to yesterday. Then came the nurse from Michigan. She's soft-spoken, almost whispering, like she's afraid the past might overhear her. She says patients at her care facility are remembering events before they happen. One of them looked her dead in the eye and described the conversation they were about to have. Verbatim. I keep toggling between skepticism and something colder. Fear, maybe. We've seen mass hysteria before. Panic breeds patterns. But the way these calls line up, geographically, thematically, it's not random. It's too organized. Even my own equipment's acting strange. The audio delay's been drifting. The show's bumper music triggered twice on its own. You know, we joke on this station about things being out of time. But maybe tonight, time's the thing out of us. Let's take one more before the hour flips. If it flips at all. Line 4. A woman named Irene. She's composed, but her tone has that flatness. The kind that only comes from witnessing something you can't explain. She says she called this station this morning. Same number, same show, same voice, mine. Said she told me about her neighbor's cat showing up dead, then alive again, then dead again. She describes the conversation in perfect detail. Problem is, I didn't work this morning. There is no morning broadcast. We're a night station. Midnight to 4 a.m. only. I ask her if she's sure, and she says something that sticks. You told me you wouldn't remember. Right after I hang up, something strange happens. The last segment, the one you just heard, plays again. Not a replay. Not from the system. Live. I'm speaking the exact same words I just said in real time. My producer swears she didn't hit anything. No loop, no feedback. But she's pale, and she won't stop staring at the mixer like it might start talking back. I try to move on. I speak randomly, break the rhythm, say nonsense phrases. Blue bottles on the moon, paper teeth. Whatever it takes to disrupt the pattern. And then, 10 seconds later, I hear those exact nonsense words echo back through the headphones. Something is wrong. And if you're just tuning in, you're not late. You're just out of order. I need a control variable, something solid, factual, measurable. So I pull up the news on my laptop. First site loads. Breaking. Major storm approaching Midwest. Wait, I read that headline yesterday. I checked the timestamp. It's dated April 1st. Today is April 2nd. I refresh. Nothing changes. Next site. Same date, same stories. All from yesterday. It's not cached, not archived. These are live news sites. I cross-check 4 more. They're all stuck. All one day behind. But not in memory. In real time. I pull up my inbox. Half the emails I got this afternoon are gone. The ones that are still there, Timestamped April 1st. Some haven't even been sent yet. Text messages, too. Out of order. One from my sister wishing me luck for tonight's show. Before I even told her I was going live. I glance at the studio clock. It's flickering now, fading in and out like a dying signal. It reads 11:59, but it's been 11:59 for 7 minutes. I've got this tightness in my chest, like I'm not breathing time anymore. I'm drowning in it. The calls haven't stopped. They keep pouring in, but now they're out of sync. Voices overlapping. One caller was answering a question I hadn't even asked yet. And through it all, there's this slow, low hum beneath the broadcast feed. It's not in the equipment. It's in me. Next caller. Let's see if we can make sense of any of this. Though I'm starting to wonder if sense has anything to do with it at all. We were about to take another call when it happened. No cue, no signal, just silence. And then a voice. Not mine. It cut through the feed like it belonged there, as if it had always been waiting. An old interview. At least that's what it sounded like. My voice was there, yes. But the guest hasn't been alive for months. His name was Dr. Ronald Kessler, a theoretical physicist. Brilliant, sharp, eccentric. We had him on last October to talk about time as a nonlinear construct, light cone simultaneity, the idea that every moment is always happening, all at once. It was dense, academic stuff, one of our stranger episodes. Except this wasn't that interview. Not exactly. This version, he was panicked. His tone wasn't calm and professorial. He sounded like a man who'd seen too much, who crossed some line he couldn't come back from. He said my name repeatedly, not in greeting, in warning. He said, "You're inside it now. You're the echo. You're the thing that's playing back." My producer looked at me like I'd orchestrated the whole thing. Swore she hadn't uploaded that file. She checked the system. It wasn't even there. No recording, no playback, no file name. And yet, we all heard it. I tried to trace it. Nothing. No origin. No timestamp. Like the interview emerged from between the frequencies. Like it had been waiting for a moment of weakness. A crack in the system. There was something else too. Before it cut out, he said, "This is where it loops." I don't know if he meant the broadcast or me. The next call came in with a jolt. Line 3 lit up on its own. There was no screening, no intro, just breathing. I said hello, gave the station ID, tried to follow protocol, whatever that means anymore. The voice on the other end was trembling. Female, young, maybe early 20s. She didn't ask questions, didn't introduce herself, just said, "You screamed." Silence. It was horrible. You were talking, then there was this crackling, like a short circuit, and you screamed. Then everything went dead. Just static. I told her I was fine. I told her we'd been live the whole time. But she wasn't listening. Her voice dropped low, almost reverent. "I recorded it. You said things that aren't in this version. You mentioned the loop. You warned us not to trust the order of events. You begged us not to let it restart. And then you screamed again and it ended." I don't know what to say to her. I look at the clock, still stuck at 11:59. She continues. "I thought it was just a nightmare, but when I turned on the radio again, it was all back at the beginning. Same music, same voice, same you, but you didn't remember. You never do." My throat tightens. My hands won't stop shaking. I ask her calmly what time she heard that broadcast. She says, 1 hour ago. I check the logs. No interruption, no static, no scream, nothing unusual. Except now, I remember, just for a second, a flash of something burning in my ears, a tearing sound, my own voice breaking apart, and then it was gone. I thank her. She says, "You're going to do it again, aren't you?" I don't answer, because I don't know. Because maybe I already have. I was mid-sentence when the static cut through. Sharp, sudden, louder than it should have been. Not background noise, not the usual hiss. This was something else. Then the automated voice kicked in. You've heard these emergency alerts before. Cold, robotic, all business. But this one, something was wrong. It was speaking in the past tense. This broadcast was issued by the United States Emergency Communications Authority. This message was activated due to a containment breach of classified temporal information. Citizens were advised to remain indoors. Were advised. Not are. Not will be. Were. I waited for the usual tone, the call sign, the return to regular programming, but it didn't come. The voice kept looping, mutating slightly each time. On the fourth loop, the phrase changed. This broadcast was not meant to be heard. I looked at my producer. She shook her head, hands off the console. We weren't airing that. It wasn't from us. I tried to speak, but my mic wouldn't open. Deadline, no signal. For 30 seconds, the station was hijacked. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. We were back. Like nothing happened. Music faded in, right on cue, like some invisible hand had tucked the interruption neatly back into place. But I know what I heard, and I know the soundboard didn't glitch, because for a moment I heard my own voice beneath the alert, repeating something I hadn't said yet. Something I haven't said. At least, not in this loop. We barely had time to process the interruption when the phone rang again. Line 6. It wasn't blinking like a normal call. It was pulsing. A slow rhythm. No caller ID. No origin. I answered. The voice on the other end was clear. Controlled. Male. Mid-40s maybe. No introduction, no greetings. He said, "You need to stop broadcasting." I asked who he was. He paused, then said something I'll never forget. "It doesn't matter what agency I'm with. You won't remember this anyway." I told him this was a free signal, public airwaves. I asked if this was about the emergency alert. He didn't answer that, just repeated, "You're interfering with the reset. The longer you talk, the more loops you create." I glanced at the monitor. Signal strength was spiking, but it wasn't coming from us. The voice said, "This isn't about freedom of speech. This is about frequency instability. We've tagged your voice print. You're an anchor now. That's dangerous." Anchor? I asked him to clarify. All he said was, "You are being heard where you shouldn't exist. This is your final warning." Then, click. Silence. The line went dead. My producer tried to trace the number. There wasn't one. The call hadn't come from anywhere, no signal recorded. It was like talking to a memory that hadn't happened yet. And the worst part? I felt like I knew that voice. Not from before, from after. The room was dead quiet when my producer pulled up the system logs. At first glance, everything looked normal. Regular timestamps, scheduled breaks, music cues, all in order. But deeper in the file, there was something we didn't expect. A block of audio, unmarked, no title, logged for tomorrow. And the file name? My initials. We played it. It was me, my voice. Same tone, same mic levels, talking to the audience, same rhythm, same pauses. But I don't remember saying any of it. And what I was saying, it chilled me. I was describing calls that haven't happened yet, referencing things that might happen later tonight. A power fluctuation. A second emergency broadcast. A phrase I haven't used yet. Entropy collapse. My voice sounded strained. Panicked. I was warning people about myself. The log said the file was recorded an hour from now. I turned to my producer. She backed away from the console, hands raised. "I didn't touch it. It just showed up." Another log appeared. A second recording. No timestamp, just a label. Loop 72. We didn't open it. Not yet. Because if the first file was a preview, then the second might be the final broadcast. Whatever's happening. It's no longer just listener stories, no longer just interference. We're bleeding into something larger. Time's not just flowing backward, it's folding inward. And somehow, I'm part of the crease. I don't remember standing up, but I'm pacing now. Around the booth. Back and forth. The mic is still live. I think. Maybe. I can't tell if I've said this already. If I've told you about the recording. About the alert. About the voice on line 6. It all feels familiar. Not deja vu. Heavier. Like I'm dragging the memory of this moment behind me. And it's wearing thin from being played so many times. I try to rewind in my head, retrace the night, but everything blurs. Did I already mention the word anchor? Or was that from a version of me I haven't caught up with yet? I grab my notes. They're covered in scribbles I don't remember writing. One of them just says, "Don't trust what comes next." Underlined 3 times. I feel like I've been on air for years, centuries. My throat is dry. My mind keeps jumping, moments collapsing into one another. Did I already take this call? Say that sentence? Play that track? Or am I thinking that I did? I close my eyes. Listen. Silence. But no, there, beneath the static, a faint voice, my voice, saying something I'm about to say. I open my mouth to speak and hear it a second before I do. Something is wrong with the order of this. Then I say it, perfect sync, or maybe not sync, maybe sequence. Maybe I'm not broadcasting live. Maybe I'm trapped in a mental echo, a memory of a broadcast I never escaped. I don't know what's worse, being stuck in a loop I can't remember, or realizing I was never in control of any of this in the first place. That's when I see it. Lying on the console, just behind the mixer board, an envelope. White, crisp, not weathered or smudged, like something that's been forgotten. It's new. But the ink on the front, my handwriting, and the date, tomorrow. I pick it up slowly, hands shaking. It's sealed. No stamp, no address, just my name, and a warning scribbled across the bottom corner. You've already read this. I asked my producer if she put it there. She shakes her head. She's crying now, quietly. Says she thought I put it there hours ago, but I didn't. At least, I don't think I did. I hesitate. My gut says don't open it. My curiosity says I already have. It's warm. Like it's been held. Like someone just left it moments ago. I glance at the mic. Still on. Maybe you're hearing this for the first time. Maybe the 74th. But the loop keeps tightening, doesn't it? I place the envelope on the desk. I haven't opened it yet. Not physically. But I know what's inside. I remember what's inside. Or maybe I'm just remembering the version of me who did. And the second I open it again, I become him. The next call comes in low, static, laced with breath. No name, just a voice trembling like it's made of glass. She says she's calling from a hospital, or what's left of one. She keeps apologizing. Not for what she's saying, but for how broken she sounds saying it. She tells me she had a daughter, a newborn, born 6 days ago. Tiny fingers. The softest cry. A birthmark on her cheek in the shape of a question mark, she says, like the universe marked her from the start. Then last night, the baby started getting younger. First, it was subtle, sleeping more, shrinking slightly, she thought. But then, hour by hour, the baby changed. Her cries grew softer, her limbs curled inward like they were rewinding her body back into the womb, and this morning, she vanished entirely. No trace, no birth record, no crib, no photos, just the aching absence of someone who had existed so vividly and then didn't. She says she's still wearing the hospital band, but it's blank now, just a strip of plastic. No name, no date. Like time reached back and plucked her child from the fabric of memory and rewrote the page. I want to say something. Anything. But I can't find the words. What do you say to someone who's watched time unmake their own child? She asks me, is she in the past now? Or did she never happen? I tell her, truthfully, I don't know. But I hear it in her voice. She already suspects the answer, and it's destroying her. The line goes quiet, and for a moment the hum behind the broadcast pulses like it's swallowing everything she just said. Like even her grief is being erased. The next voice is older, deeper, slower. A man calls himself John. Says he's not calling for help. He just needs someone to know what's happening. Needs to say it out loud before it resets again. His wife died 5 years ago. Stroke, quick, no warning. But 3 nights ago, he woke up to her humming in the kitchen. The same song she used to sing when she thought no one was listening. The coffee was brewing. The newspaper was from 2018. She smiled, kissed him on the forehead, and asked if he wanted pancakes. And just like that, they were back. The final weeks before her death. Playing in reverse. He says he relived their last argument backward, starting with silence, then tension, then words unsaid, until it became laughter again. Joy again. Her final breath became her first smile. Her last goodbye turned into a gentle good morning. But he knew. He always knew what came next. That it would loop again. That it would end with the moment she reappears, then begins to fade. He's been through it 3 times now. Each time she returns a little less. The pauses in her words get longer. The memories they share start to shift. One loop, she doesn't remember their dog's name. The next, she forgets their wedding. He says he doesn't know if it's time-breaking or her. And he asked me the question I've been dreading all night. Is she real? Or just my grief looping back on itself? I don't know how to answer, because deep down, I'm wondering the same thing. How much of what we love is memory? And if memory bends backward, what happens to love? The call ends, but his voice lingers in my ears like an echo trapped in reverse. The next few callers come in rapid succession, overlapping voices, some finishing thoughts that haven't been spoken yet. Some starting conversations I swear we already had. One woman says she keeps waking up in the wrong morning, that her dreams are memories she hasn't lived, that her husband leaves for work but returns before the front door closes. She asks if she's going mad, or if the day is looping around her like a noose. A man from Chicago reports blackouts, only not like power outages. He forgets entire chunks of time. Grocery lists written in handwriting he doesn't recognize. Emails from himself he never sent. Messages on his voicemail that begin with his own voice. Each call feels less tethered to the present, less linear. It's like time is collapsing into a spiral, and memory is trying to climb out of it using broken pieces of reality. And the worst part? I'm starting to feel it too. I keep forgetting which segment I'm in, which call I've taken, whether I've already told this story, or I'm about to. The script in front of me has words I haven't said yet. One of them is circled, collapse. I don't remember circling it. I try to anchor myself, say the station ID, ground the broadcast, but even that feels unstable, like I've said it too many times. Or not yet at all. My mouth moves before I think. The words spill out like they've already been written. And somewhere, deep beneath the static, I swear, I hear my own voice, reciting tomorrow's show. Word for word, I keep talking. Or maybe I'm thinking. Or maybe I'm remembering thinking about talking. I honestly don't know anymore. There's a moment just now where I stumble over a word, and I swear I've stumbled over it before. Not earlier tonight. In another version of tonight. One that didn't quite happen, but still echoes in the static like a half-formed thought. The soundboard's still rolling. The mic light is on. I'm speaking into the void, or maybe the void is speaking through me. I reach over to rewind the monitor feed. Not something I normally do, but something compels me. The last few minutes play back, only the audio is off. Not in pitch, but in timing. It's ahead of what I remember saying. Then comes the part that freezes me cold. My voice. But I haven't said it yet. I don't think I'm live. I think I'm the recording. And then, almost like a cue, I say those exact words. Out loud. Again, in real time. I don't even feel myself forming the sentence. I try again. Say a phrase, anything. Banana peel thunderstorm, blue eclipse. Something no recording would ever contain. But it plays back before I finish. Perfect sync. Or maybe not sync. Maybe precedence. I don't feel present. I feel preserved. Like a message in a bottle tumbling through time's undertow. Not broadcast, not alive, just repeating. I ask the question out loud. Have I ever been live? What if I never was? What if this station isn't a transmitter? It's a loop. And I'm not a host. I'm a recording that thinks it's conscious. The silence that follows isn't empty. It feels final until the phone rings again. And the voice that answers is one I haven't heard before but already know. She's maybe 10, 12 at most. Her voice is soft, unshaken, like this is just another bedtime story. She says my name with perfect clarity, not just the name you all know on air, but my real name. The one I haven't used since before this job, before this version of me. I'm not supposed to call yet, she says, but I thought maybe if I did it sooner, you'd remember faster. My hands go numb. She tells me she's called before. Dozens of times. Maybe more. But I never remember. Not until the very end. And by then, it's already too late. You always start to figure it out when the envelope appears, she says. I ask her how she knows that. She pauses, then answers simply. Because you told me. Every time. She explains the loops. How she's caught in them too, but only through this signal. That sometimes I end the show with a warning. Other times I scream. One time I went completely silent for 10 minutes. But no matter what, it always starts over. Same song, same voice, same version of me that doesn't remember until it's already over. I try to ask her what it means, how it started, who started it. But she just says, that's not the part you ever figure out. I want to believe she's wrong, that I'm close this time, that maybe something's different. But then she says something that stops me cold. You're about to say, I don't think I'm live. I think I'm the recording. Silence on my end. Then, without meaning to, I speak. I don't think I'm live. I think I'm the recording. I don't hear her hang up, because I already know she doesn't. The signal cuts, and the next sound is my opening line. Again. After the last call, I needed something solid, something rooted in logic. If time is breaking down, there has to be a name for it, an equation, a framework, a precedent. So I reached out. Dr. Elena Vasquez, astrophysicist, joined us live. She'd been listening, said she almost didn't pick up because the signal had already played for her hours ago. But she knew I'd call because she remembered answering. Her voice was calm, controlled, but there was a fracture underneath it, like someone trying to hold a dam together with both hands. She started with entropy, the natural progression of disorder in the universe. One direction only, forward. Time doesn't reverse, it degrades. That's what we've always believed, until now. She said this isn't just a reversal, it's a collapse, a folding of entropy inward. Every moment that was is trying to overwrite what is. The arrow of time, as we know it, is bending backward and piercing through the timeline behind it, Particles are decaying in reverse. Light from stars is traveling inward. Even memory, the most human fragment of time, is becoming unreliable. She called it localized temporal inversion, said it's not global, not yet. It's hitting signals first, places where frequency and time overlap, like radio. I asked her how it could have started, what the catalyst was. She hesitated, then said, "It may not have started. It may have always been happening. And we're only just noticing it now because this version of us wasn't supposed to know." I felt the blood drain from my face. I asked her what happens if it continues, if it spreads. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "It won't kill us, if that's what you're asking. It'll just unmake us. The moment you realize you're being reversed is the moment you cease to exist in the direction you once did." And then she paused. I asked if she was still there. All I heard was static, and beneath it, my own voice, whispering something I hadn't yet said. The next call wasn't scientific. It was spiritual. The voice was older, measured. He called himself Father Callahan, said he didn't believe in coincidences anymore. Not since the river near his church flowed backward and delivered the body of a man he buried last week. He didn't sound afraid. That's what unnerved me. He said he'd heard what the astrophysicist said, and he didn't disagree. But he believed science and scripture were both attempting to explain the same thing from different ends of the void. "This isn't a collapse," he said. "It's an undoing." I asked him what he meant. He said, we are not dying. We are being unraveled, pulled back through the very choices that defined us. Judgment not at the end of life, but at the moment it's unwound. I told him people were scared, that they needed answers, that they needed hope. He said, hope doesn't exist in reverse. Grace, perhaps, but not hope. Hope looks forward. This is a reckoning that looks back. I didn't know how to respond to that. Then he said something that struck deeper than anything I've heard tonight. "Your voice is familiar. I think I've heard it at the end." I asked him, "The end of what?" He said, "Exactly." Then the line went dead. No static, no click, just gone. And I realized in that moment, science gave me theory, but faith gave me consequence. And maybe both are true. Maybe this isn't just time breaking. Maybe this is what happens when it tries to remember us. After the priest hung up, the lines exploded. Voicemail inbox filled. Calls stacked 5 deep. Everyone had a theory, and none of them agreed. One caller said this was the result of the CERN collider pushing too far, cracking a hole through time's membrane. Another blamed rogue quantum AI, suggesting we're all just failed simulations looping backward in search of self-deletion. One man claimed he was part of a group. He didn't call it a cult, but it was. He said they'd predicted this, that a voice on the radio would trigger the unraveling. Said I was that voice. Then came a woman from Utah. Her voice was steady, clear, and terrifying. She said they'd been listening to me for years. Not this station, me. They recorded each show, cataloged the patterns, studied the cadence of my speech, built timelines based on when I stuttered, when I paused. She said I was more than a host. I was the index, the anchor to the fold, that when I speak, the world remembers itself. And if I stopped, it might forget. Another caller screamed at me to stop talking, said the broadcast was an accelerant, that every word I speak widens the crack in the timeline. Silence is the only salvation, he cried before the line cut off mid-plea. My hands trembled, my throat burned. I don't know who to believe anymore, because I think they're all wrong. And somehow, all right. I tried to steady the show, bring it back to balance, play both sides, reason and belief, science and faith, give space for each caller to be heard. But something shifted. The lines began splitting, not just in opinion, but in language. Listeners weren't speaking to me anymore. They were speaking through me. One caller repeated phrases from the priest's warning. Another quoted the physicist word for word, as if reading from a transcript I hadn't aired yet. Then came the visions. One woman described a dream where I was kneeling in a river made of broken tape reels, screaming at the sky as static poured from my mouth. A man said he'd drawn a map during a seizure. When he woke up, it matched a complex gravitational diagram from one of Vasquez's earlier papers. He'd never heard of her. Each call blurred the line further. Divine intervention, fractured science, or just madness echoing across frequency. I tried to speak rationally, but even I didn't trust my voice anymore. I heard a loop of myself, seconds ahead, repeating my own doubts back to me. Listeners divided. Some clung to logic, demanding more scientific input. Others whispered prayers as they cried. A few just listened in silence, like they were waiting for something they knew was coming. I stared at the console, not sure what side I stood on anymore. Maybe I'm not meant to choose. Maybe I'm the bridge, the proof, or the price. And just as I was about to speak again, my producer waved at me, frantic. We'd reconnected with Vasquez. But what came next didn't go the way either side expected. Her voice was back. Dr. Vasquez. She sounded rushed, short of breath. She said she found something, a pattern in the frequency, hidden beneath the signal drift. She called it an inverted echo, a signature of collapsed time waves, repeating across nonlinear intervals. I asked her what it meant. She said, it's a reflection of an event that hasn't happened yet, but keeps happening anyway. It means the loop is being reinforced by something, someone, inside it. Then she stopped. Mid-sentence, I waited. Nothing. Dr. Vasquez? Silence, then static. A high, rising pitch, like feedback from a void. My producer tried to patch the line. No signal, no end tone, just gone. Like she'd never been connected at all. I opened the call logs. Her name wasn't there. No record of the call. No entry for her number. No file of her voice. It was as if the moment she revealed the truth, reality removed her from it. And for the first time tonight, I truly wondered if that's what happens to anyone who gets too close. I lost my place mid-sentence. That ever happened to you? You're mid-thought, and then nothing. Not a pause, not hesitation, just disappearance. I blinked, and suddenly I wasn't in the studio anymore. I was standing in my old apartment. 4th floor, small balcony, paint peeling from the windowsills. Not physically, not literally, but it was there. Around me, inside me. The same way a song triggers a memory so vivid you can smell the furniture. Only this wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't a memory I was accessing. It was one I was inhabiting. I looked down. My fingers were younger, my wrists thinner. The pain in my knee, the one I've had since the accident, was gone. I heard music playing from the other room. A voice, hers, laughing. The smell of overcooked garlic bread drifting in from the kitchen. It was years ago. Exactly years ago. And everything was moving backward. She entered the room, handed me a plate of pasta, then took it back, smiled, and walked it in reverse back to the stove. The words we spoke unfolded in reverse. My apology came first, then the argument, then silence, then laughter, then silence again, like a reel of film spooling out from the center of my chest. And then the apartment faded, just like that, gone. And I was back in the booth, hands on the mic, voice shaking, trying to figure out if I'd been transported or peeled open. I looked at the clock, 11:59 again. Still, or again, or always. What if time isn't breaking around us? What if it's breaking through us? Like water rising through cracks in the foundation. Only the cracks are memories, and the water is truth. And what happens when it reaches the surface? I was still reeling from the time slip when it happened again, only this time It wasn't the apartment. It was the courthouse. The final day of the divorce. I saw myself sitting at that cold table across from her. Pen in hand, signature halfway done, voice hollow. But it wasn't like last time. The words weren't angry. They were calm, measured. They reversed slowly, like breath being drawn back in, and then, like fog lifting, the years peeled away. We were standing in the kitchen again. She was packing a bag. No yelling, no tension, just pause, then rewind. The bag unpacked, the coat rehung, the door closed instead of opening. I looked at her and she looked at me, like she didn't know what came next, like we were both waiting for a version of this moment that didn't lead to pain. I said her name, and she smiled. Not the smile of someone coming back, but the smile of someone who never left. But even as I tried to reach for that moment, touch it, hold it, it pulled away. Time caught up to its own reversal. The memory dissolved like breath on glass, and I was back in the booth again. That lingering warmth still on my skin, that smile still in my head. But I know the truth. That reunion never happened. Not forward, not backward. It was a gift from a loop. One that plays kindness on rewind, only to snap it away the moment you believe in it. And still, part of me wishes, just once, it had been real. It happened during a broadcast break. I turned my chair, and he was there. Benny, my childhood dog, golden retriever, sloppy tongue, tail that wagged like it was powered by joy itself. I hadn't seen him in 2 decades. He died when I was 17. But there he was, on the floor, looking up at me like he'd been waiting, like he never left. I knelt down. He licked my hand. It felt real. The weight of his paws, the warmth of his breath, the way he leaned into my legs just like he used to when thunder scared him. For a second I forgot the static, the loops, the voices. It was just Benny and me and the feeling that maybe not everything that fades has to stay gone. I whispered his name. He barked once, a soft, happy sound. And then he blinked, slowly, and his fur lightened. His eyes turned cloudy. His form began to stutter, like tape spooling backward. His bark reversed. And then silence. He was gone. Not vanished, not erased, just rewound. Into nothing. I sat there for a long time, mic still live, heart unraveling. Maybe memory is the last refuge of the lost. But when time collapses inward, even that refuge fades. And it always starts with the ones we love the most. I was about to open the lines again when something slipped. The call that came through, I recognized it word for word. A woman, middle-aged, from Cincinnati, telling me about the light bulbs in her hallway flickering in sync with her heartbeat. How her cat disappears when she blinks. The way the moon has been rising, not setting. I remembered her cadence. The static on the line. The laugh she gave at the end that didn't sound human. I remembered it, not as a memory, but like deja vu painted in sharp detail. But I hadn't played it back. This wasn't a rerun. It was coming through live. Again. I let it play. Didn't interrupt, just listened. Because I wanted to know what came next. Then came the difference. Last time, she said, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. This time, she said, I don't think you're supposed to be here. Same voice, same tone, same everything. But that shift, it cracked something. Another call. A young man from Detroit said he was hearing his own voice echoing through the faucet in his sink. I remembered that call too. But last time, he said he was scared. This time, he said he'd accepted it. Accepted what? That time loops? That reality repeats? Or that I'm not in control of any of it? I tried to pull up the old logs, check the dates on those previous calls. But there were no recordings, just blank files with labels marked. Live. Always live. Even when I know they weren't. Even when I know they are again. The console crackled. A low-frequency pulse surged through the board, different from the static, deeper than the hum. Then a voice came through, my voice. But it wasn't coming from the mic, it was a recording. Not archived, not scheduled, just there. And it wasn't speaking to me. It was speaking to you. He doesn't remember yet, but he will soon. I froze. The voice continued. When he does, don't let him finish the show. Don't let him reach the end. That's the trigger. That's when it resets. That's when the collapse begins again. I backed away from the mic. This wasn't pre-recorded. Not in any traditional sense. I checked the console feed. There was no track playing. No source. Nothing was on. But the voice played anyway. Calm, measured, familiar, terrified. And before it cut out, it said one final thing. If he starts talking about the envelope again, it's already too late. Dead air. Silence so thick I could hear my own pulse. Which meant somewhere, somehow, I already did this. Which means I'm not broadcasting. I'm repeating. And maybe I've already reached the point I was supposed to forget. I tried to get confirmation. Tried to call neighboring stations, local, regional, even a few old contacts out west. Nothing. Dead air. Just that brittle, high-pitched static. The kind that feels like it's coming from inside your teeth. The major networks. Off-grid. Their feeds stopped updating hours ago. One anchor's last transmission was him staring directly into the camera, not speaking, just mouthing something. Slowly. Over and over. I reached out through emergency channels. Nothing. Emergency bands were silent or looping nonsense. One frequency kept repeating a single phrase in Morse, HEISNTSUPPOSEDTOKNOW. And then something cracked it through the static. Not a station. A pirate signal. Faint. Distorted, but human. A man screaming about a timequake in Berlin. A voice sobbing in Spanish, describing her grandfather coming home from World War I. Alive and confused. Then a signal from the Arctic. A soft voice saying simply, "The stars are in the wrong place." Then silence. Then another voice. "You are the signal now." I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was for me or about me, but I haven't been able to shake the feeling that somewhere across all these failing frequencies, something else is listening. And we're not broadcasting anymore. We're echoing. Line 2 lit up. A man's voice, low, hoarse, terrified. He said his name was Ruben, called from upstate New York. Said he left work early this morning, around 10 a.m. Only when he stepped outside, the street was dirt, not just construction. No cars, no traffic lights, no wires overhead, just horses, cobblestone, gas lamps. He walked the block in disbelief. The Starbucks on the corner was gone, replaced by a blacksmith shop. The signage was hand-carved. A man in a bowler hat tipped his head and said, "Afternoon, stranger," before fading into nothing. Ruben said he ran back home, only to find his house didn't exist. The plot of land was there, but with a white farmhouse from another era, and inside, portraits of a family that looked almost, but not quite, like his. He said the newspapers were dated 1873. When he tried to call 911, his phone melted in his hand. He said those were his exact words, melted. Then through the line, I heard him cry out. He said something was pulling him backward. His hands were aging in reverse. His voice cracked, then reversed, like tape rewinding, and then nothing. The call dropped. I checked the log. No number, no duration, no name. Only one thing was left in the record field. Manifest collapse, phase 3. I didn't type that, neither did my producer, but it's there now, and something tells me Ruben wasn't the first. The next call came from a woman whispering so softly, I had to boost the gain just to make her audible. She said her name was Melody. Small town in Ohio, quiet place. You'd miss it if you blinked, but no one blinks anymore because blinking means something might disappear. She said it started with the post office. One day it was just gone, not destroyed, not closed, just never there. Then the corner store, then the library, then the park. She walked down her street and counted the houses. 22 one day, then 20, then 18. She asked her neighbor if they noticed anything strange. The neighbor said, "We've always had 12. By the next morning, only 10 houses remained. And the people inside? She doesn't know. She said she used to hear voices at night. Laughter, televisions playing, families living. Now, silence. Like no one ever existed behind those doors. She said her own reflection is starting to fade, first in mirrors, then in windows. Last night, she looked into a spoon and saw someone else's eyes staring back. She told me, "I don't know if I'm still here or just remembering that I was." I asked if she was safe. She said, I think so. For now." Then she said something I'll never forget. "But I can hear your voice getting further away." The line went dead a second later, and for the first time tonight, I questioned whether you could still hear mine. I was about to go to break, just a moment of silence, just to breathe. But then a new voice cut through the feed. I didn't answer the line. It answered me. It wasn't patched in. It wasn't on any line. It just emerged. Male. Slight distortion. Mechanical but alive. Like something mimicking humanity. Too well to be safe. And it said, "You're saying it again. Exactly the same. That means we're still in it." I froze. It continued. "You've done this loop 73 times. You ask the same questions. You say the same names. You beg for answers. You always think you're close. But you're the signal. You're the loop." I tried to speak. My mic buzzed, resisted me. The voice got louder. "You think you're warning people. You're not. You're triggering it. You always were. We're not listening to you anymore. We're listening through you." I asked, finally forcing my mic open. "What happens if I stop?" The voice answered, "Then we might be free, but you won't be." Then static, but not the usual kind. This was dense, full, like 1,000 voices trying to scream backward at once. The console rebooted, my mic reset, and I realized something that chilled me deeper than anything else tonight. The voice didn't say they're stuck in a loop. It said, "We're stuck in your loop." I don't remember deciding to open the envelope. One second I was gripping it like it might explode. The next, I was staring at its contents, spread across the console like a confession laid bare. 12 pages, typed, single-spaced, labeled, broadcast transcript, tonight. But the timestamp at the top, 3:17 p.m., 6 hours ago. And as I began to read, my breath caught. Because it wasn't just the intro, or the first call, or my half-joke about needing coffee again. It was everything. Every word I'd said, every silence, every glitch, every looped caller, distorted warning, impossible story, all documented. Even the things I hadn't said yet. I skimmed the lines, trying not to read too far ahead, terrified that if I did, it would force me to say them. But curiosity is a curse dressed as hunger, and hunger won. I read ahead, and there it was. A paragraph I hadn't spoken yet, describing me, holding this very page, describing my voice breaking as I whisper, "I don't think I'm broadcasting. I think I'm remembering." I didn't mean to say it aloud, but I did. And the moment I did, I felt something twist in the air around me, like the loop had inhaled. There were typos in the transcript, corrections, as if someone had written it quickly, from memory, from inside. Every page smelled faintly of ozone, like lightning had kissed it, like time had left fingerprints in the margins. And I knew, before I even reached the last page, This transcript wasn't written by someone else. It was written by me. The typed words stopped at page 12, but the scribbles began. Thick, frantic handwriting in the margins, crossing through the transcript like barbed wire. All caps, misspelled words, underlines that tore the paper. Don't say it this time. Turn off the mic. If you finish, it begins again. Each note more unhinged than the last. Tell them to forget you. Tell them to stop listening. One line was scrawled in red ink so deep it bled through. If you reach the end, you trigger the reset. Some of it was unreadable, ink smudged by what looked like fingerprints or sweat or maybe tears. I couldn't tell if they were warnings or pleas.
One phrase repeated over and over, "He never listens, he never listens, he never..." And in the bottom corner of the last page, beneath all the chaos, in the same unmistakable handwriting, "Walk away, please, walk away." And then, "This is your last chance." My throat tightened. The studio felt colder, smaller. I looked at the red on air light, and for the first time in my entire career, I wanted to shut it off. But something stopped me. Not pride, not defiance, something deeper. The desperate, impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. It was only when I turned the final page over that I saw it. One line, center of the sheet, typed, clean, no scribbles, no madness. Just, "This is the 74th loop." No signature, no punctuation, just those 6 words, underlined once in red. I stared at it for what felt like forever. 74, not 2, not 10, not even 30. 74. How many versions of me had opened this same envelope? How many had begged themselves to stop? How many thought they were different? The mic was still on. The script in front of me didn't tell me what to do next. That's where it ended. And in the silence that followed, I felt it, subtle but real. A shift, like the world was waiting, like everything was holding its breath for whatever came after that final sentence. But how can you choose differently when everything about your existence has been written in advance? I touched the page with trembling fingers, and for a moment, I didn't know if I was reading a prophecy or a confession. And maybe they're the same thing. Because if this truly is the 74th loop, that means I've already failed 73 times, and I don't remember any of them. I don't know if this mic is still live. If it is, and if you're hearing me, whoever you are, whenever you are, then I need you to understand something. I never meant for this to happen. I was just a man with a voice, a broadcast, a few hours of dead air to fill. And somewhere along the way, that air filled me instead, with echoes, with loops, with things that shouldn't be remembered, but were, and are, and always will be. I've spent my life asking questions. That's what we do, right? That's what makes us human. We poke the unknown. We climb the mountain just to ask what's on the other side. Progress, curiosity, the forward crawl. But what no one ever teaches you is how much damage you leave behind while looking ahead. The people, the promises, the parts of yourself that don't survive the climb. I spent so many nights behind this microphone thinking I was helping people understand the world, but maybe all I was doing was trapping them in it. Every word I've spoken tonight, I've spoken before. Every warning, every whisper, every static break. They weren't clues. They weren't prophecies. They were confessions of a man too stubborn to stop, too afraid to be forgotten. I think that's what really haunts me now. Not the loop, not the science, not the collapse of reality, but the silence. What if I really do stop speaking? Will anything remain? Will you? Or is the only thing left, the only thing real, this endless voice? I want to believe there's a version of me out there that made the right choice, that pulled the plug, that walked away from the loop and found peace in the quiet. But I'm not him. I'm the version who's still talking, still stalling, still hoping, and the clock, It's ticking backwards now. The moment I stopped speaking, it began. The static came back, but not as interruption. It came with purpose, not just noise, voices, mine, hundreds, layered atop each other, each slightly different. Some calm, some panicked, some weeping, others screaming, all saying things I remember and things I don't. It wasn't like hearing ghosts. It was like being in a choir of my own regrets. I heard myself say, "This is your last chance," and "Tell them to forget you," and "Turn off the mic before the end." And I realized they weren't all me from tonight. They were me from every other night. The 17th loop, the 31st, the 56th. The versions where I opened the envelope and ran, the ones where I burned it, the one where I locked myself in silence, the one where I confessed, the one where I begged. They're all here, now filling the space I thought was mine alone, each of them reaching across time, not to stop the collapse, but to witness it. And maybe that's the final cruelty of it all. You don't get to escape the loop. You get to hear yourself lose, over and over, different tones, same ending, and in between their words, a sound emerges. Not quite a scream, not quite a whisper, just the moment before surrender. The moment you realize the broadcast isn't about saving anyone. It's about reminding you that you never did. I tried to keep talking, to push through the noise. But something's wrong with the words now. They're unforming as I speak. My mouth moves, but what comes out doesn't stay. Like sound dissolving into memory before it hits the air. I said, "This is," and it echoed back, "Was this?" I said, "You're listening to the radio." But halfway through, the words reversed inside my throat. I tried again and again. Each time, the sentence unraveled. The air thickened, like molasses, like gravity's grip tightened. I felt my voice stretching, pulling apart, like it had been too long in use. Or maybe too long used. My hands reached for the console, but they felt distant, fuzzy, like remembering someone else's limbs. And then I heard it. The final phrase in every loop, the thing I always say, the thing that always ends it. While time begins to... But I didn't finish it, because something ended me. Dead air, no breath, no static, just the kind of silence that swallows memory. And then, music, familiar, low, a gentle cue. Then the voice, my voice, but cheerful now, professional, unaware. "Good evening, folks. It's just after midnight, and you're listening to the radio, while time begins to flow backwards. The same cadence, same smile in the tone, like nothing ever happened, like everything is happening again. The console lights flicker back to green, lines open, callers waiting. The cycle resets, not with a bang, but with routine, because nothing binds a loop tighter than habit. Nothing buries truth deeper than comfort. And the scariest part? No one notices. Not at first. Not until the clocks lose sync. Not until the sun rises in the west. Not until the tape stutters, and someone, somewhere, remembers they've heard this before. And then it begins again. Always. And forever.